Until recently, I didn't know what a CDR hat was, because no one really talks about them. I knew they existed, but I didn't comprehend to the full extent what they actually do. What is a CDR hat? Who benefits from using them? Do they boost damage and or training rates? To start off, what is a CDR hat? CDR, also known as cooldown reduction, is a legendary potential prime line that you can get from hats only. It appears in either main or bonus potential. In your main potential, you can get -1 second or -2 second per line. In your bonus potential, you can get -1 second per line maximum. You can reduce your skills to 5-second cooldown max. It will not go below 5 seconds. Another catch is that if the skill cooldown is under 10 seconds, the -1 second will reduce the cooldown by 5% per potential line, and then 2-second line will reduce it by 10% per line. CDR affects all of your skills including 5th job, but does not affect your hyper skills. Not yet anyways, this might change in the future patches. Next, who or what classes benefit from CDR? Here are two tables that show you what classes benefit the most from CDR and how many seconds you should get. I don't know where they came from, my friend sent them to me. The main takeaway from these tables and my testing, which I'll discuss next, is that CDR benefits classes that rely heavily on their cooldown skills with cooldowns between 10 seconds to 30 seconds. This is only estimated range though, so don't take it too literally. In other words, if you use a lot of 4th and or 5th job skills and bossing or training that output high damage and they have cooldowns between 10 to 30 seconds, then your class will probably benefit from CDR. For example, Phantom, Dual Blade, Fire Poison Mage, and Dark Knight all benefit from using a CDR. These classes will improve their damage output and training EXP rates significantly if they use a CDR hat instead of a plain old stat hat. To show you an example of CDR hats at work, let's talk about Kaisers and my testing with 2 CDR hats, a 4-second one and a 5-second one. According to the chart, Kaisers don't really benefit from CDR, but is that really the case? To test the benefits of CDR hat for Kaisers, I did Covert, a gear down V-Hela clear, and a full rotation of almost 4 minutes for each of the hats. Of course, I also tested how long it took to charge a Kaiser's gauge from empty to full. Covert scores and boss clears times don't really show much here because there are a lot of variables such as lag and boss patterns, and you don't really notice the gains unless you've made 5 to 10% final damage increase. In short, Covert scores and V-Hela clear times were around the same regardless of the hat. Next, charging times. Charging my gauge from empty to full took around 34 seconds with a stat hat, 30 seconds with a 4-second cooldown rate hat, and 28 seconds with a 5-second hat. Lastly, the geekiest and hardest part of all, testing the full rotation. This is the hardest part because there are a lot of variables as you can see in this spreadsheet. Wing Beat is affected by human error. 2 of our 5th job skills, Nova Guardian and Dragon Blaze, are affected by server lag, and Tempest Blades are affected by Grandize Blessing, which skips cooldown on an RNG basis. It can skip cooldown during the weapon jump buff 6 times, or it can just not skip a single time. All of these were problems I had to solve, and to solve them I had to get creative. I removed Grandize Blessing in the test to remove the RNG side. I averaged out the number of hits from Wingbeat, Nova Guardian, and Dragon Blaze from the 3 tests to remove the human error and server lag side. These are highlighted in yellow in the spreadsheet. These 3 skills are not really affected by CDR in a full rotation anyways. I then calculated a hypothetical total damage for each of the tests by multiplying the number of times used by the average damage per hit for each of the skills and summing them up. Here are the full rotation test results. The 4-second cooldown rate hat gave me a -1.54% FD compared to my stat hat, and the 5-second cooldown rate hat gave me a +1.09% FD compared to my stat hat. However, there is a catch. The hats were not just plain CDR, they had stat lines and different flames too, so I had to account for those using a MapleStory calculator. The 4-second CDR hat gave me -2.19% FD from my stat hat, and the 5-second one gave me a -2.84% FD. So to figure out how much CDR by itself is actually worth, we have to do this. Ending point from tests minus starting point from calc equals the plain CDR gain. The results were 0.65% FD gain from 4-second CDR and 3.93% gain from 5-sec CDR. Bear in mind, these numbers aren't perfect, but I tried my best to make them as mathematical as possible. No 2 boss fights will be identical, so take this with a grain of salt. Using a CDR hat is only one of many ways to increase your damage output. Do you want to know what else you can do to increase your damage output in training and bossing? Be sure to click on this video next, in which I go through 5 ways to increase your damage for basically free. Special shout out to M for Murder for supporting the channel. If you want to receive a shout out too, be sure to hit that join button down below, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.